The Road to Ninja universe makes its triumphant return in this week's episode of Naruto Shippuden. That's right, my friends, the Infinite Tsukiyomi is in full effect. Everyone is caught up in Madara's grand genjutsu, and that means we're going to go around to all of the different characters and see what's going on in their individualized, customized dream worlds. This week's episode focused on the character of the weapon-obsessed Tenten, and I wouldn't say it's exactly what I wanted, but it was still a pretty entertaining episode to say the least. And there is this little underlying layer of disturbingness to this entire episode, which I will explain in a little bit. But what's most interesting about this week's episode is that it features the return of the Road to Ninja movie characters. We also got to see these characters in an old anime episode, which all led into that Naruto movie, Road to Ninja. And honestly, I think their return is very welcome, and it's also really appropriate, because the entire plot of the movie Road to Ninja was basically seeing an unfinished version of the Infinite Tsukiyomi, and now we get to see it fully realized in this week's episode, where Tenten now is back in Konoha Village, but the thing is, she still remembers everything that's going on in the war, and this is very different as to what actually happens in the manga version, where she's basically just seen for the few panels, just looking at Rock Lee, Guy, and the fact that, of course, Neji is still alive, and bringing him back was also a very interesting choice, and it's also really just great to see the alternate version of Neji, who is a complete and total pervert. And that's really the main reason to check out this week's episode, is just to see the different versions of our favorite characters. Rock Lee could not be more lamer than he is in this week's episode, with his shorts and his sandals and his goofy haircut and the fact that he actually cuts his eyebrows. You can actually see where he trimmed them, and it just makes him look really weird and not exactly dandy, baby. Otherwise, there's also some other characters who make their big return. Of course, we have Team 7, we have Naruto, who in this universe is known as Menma, who is one of the big characters from Road to Ninja. We have Sakura, who's basically just plain old Sakura, except that she is obsessed with Naruto, or Menma. And then we have Sasuke, who's a complete and total playboy. And then, of course, we have Shino, who, of course, he likes bugs in the real world, so in this world, he just wants to kill them all. You have Kiba, who's obsessed with dogs in the real world, so now he likes cats. And we also get to see the return of Hinata, or as I affectionately like to call her, Honata. I love this version of Hinata. She's a frickin' pistol. She's awesome. She's really assertive, and it's just really funny to see her voice actor acting this way, because we never get to see Hinata like this. It's really, really interesting. We also get to see the return, of course, Shikamaru, Choji, Ino. They're all just completely different and usually the exact opposites of what they usually are, but this whole episode was all about Tenten trying to figure out how she could actually get back to the war and how she could avoid all of these people. And what I think is really disturbing about this episode is just how powerful the Infinite Tsukiyomi is. Because we know that it's a genjutsu, we know that it actually casts these images of people and what they actually want to see inside of their head, but they actually have like these fully realized, breathing, real characters, and there's a lot of scenes this week where we don't see Tenten hanging out with these people, and they're still like acting like a normal society, like they are fully realized beings within this genjutsu world, and something about that is really disturbing to me, and it almost seems as if the Infinite Tsukiyomi is somewhat inviting, if only for the fact that it puts you in a coma-like state, and you do lose some of your free will. But what is most interesting is that Tenten still remembers everything that's going on in the war. In fact, she still has that one scroll that she has, which has the gourd and the pot, and at the beginning of the episode you can see that Madara's weird crest thing that he ripped off of his forehead actually fell right down on top of that, and she said she needed some help from a cloud ninja. This is something that was never fully realized in the manga version. Maybe they're going to do something a little bit more with it in the anime version. Another thing that I found really interesting about this week's episode is that the entire point of the Infinite Tsukiyomi, at least according to Madara, is that he's basically going to unite the world and sort of bring about this fake peace that's going on in the minds of every single person on the planet. And because of that, Tenten is sort of shaking things up, because she's unlike any other being in the series. She's actually very conflicting. She attacks Hinata in this week's episode with a big frickin' axe, and this freaks out everyone in Konoha. It draws a massive crowd, and they themselves are confused, and when you realize that they're actually just genjutsu clones, it's really weird, and it messes with your head a little bit. Not to mention, this week's episode actually ended on a cliffhanger, and apparently this thing's going to end up being a two-parter or maybe even longer, because there's this guy who appears at the end of the episode who seems to be watching Tenten, wearing this weird, big, old-school, like, Akatsuki-looking hat, you know, the kinds they wear when they're out in the rice fields. and that's pretty much it. So, what's the rundown on this week's episode of Naruto Shippuden? My biggest disappointment with this episode is the fact that I thought it was all going to be condensed into one episode. They are actually going to be extending this out into a two-parter or even possibly longer. But if you look at the preview for the next episode, some exciting things are going to be going down because it looks like Naruto is actually going to be battling against Hanzo. Yeah, the guy who actually summons the big salamander, and it looks like we're going to have a big kaiju battle with Kurama and the salamander and all the other people in Konoha Village, and it looks like Tenten might even be uniting them, and I'm guessing this is going to be the moment where she actually succumbs to the genjutsu and realizes that there's nothing wrong with this world. It's a world where she wants to live because she is trapped just like everyone else, but it'll be really interesting to see if she actually does keep her personality and she still realizes that she's in a genjutsu world, because like I said, this is completely different from what we saw in the actual manga version of the series. Fans of Road to Ninja will be happy to know that most of the big characters who appeared in that movie will be appearing in this episode and probably in the next one, and we'll probably get a little more action from them. But I'm really interested to see what the anime version is going to do with some of the other characters who are trapped in the Infinite Tsukiyomi, and I'm really interested to know why they actually decided to go with Tenten, because she was one of the characters that was focused on in the manga with the Infinite Tsukiyomi, but it was very short-lived, and there were a number of other characters who went to their own alternate universes within this genjutsu, and I wonder if they're going to try to give them their very own episodes, or maybe even their own little small arcs. I'm not really sure how they're going to handle that. All I know is I do hope they get through this kind of quick, because like a lot of people, I'm just ready to get to the finale of the series. I can't wait till we get to more action, and of course we have some big shocking twists and surprises and some brand new people who are going to show up, so we have to get excited for the end of the Naruto series. But for now, we're just going to have to endure this little Infinite Tsukiyomi filler arc. But honestly, it's not all that bad. If anything, it's just kind of funny getting to see Tenten be Tenten. You know, getting to see where she lives. She has this massive, giant sword-like object that's actually in her room. It literally looks like a giant linoleum knife. I wish she would use that thing. That thing looks bad freaking ass. And it's just funny to see all of those side characters yet again. So, a few laughs, a few disturbing moments in this week's episode, and the beginning of a filler Tenten arc. So, not the perfect episode. The animation, the artwork was just sort of okay at times. Really nothing that you could write home about. This was just sort of an average episode of Naruto Shippuden. So I am going to give this week's episode a 3 out of 5. It was still an entertaining episode, and one that I think any Naruto fan should definitely check out, especially those who just read the manga version, because you're going to see some completely different material from this episode, and it might seem really fresh to you, especially if you want to see some brand new Naruto material. For people who just watch the anime, just keep watching. It's only a matter of time before we get to the big finale of the series, which assuredly should be awesome. As I imagine, a lot of big teams are going to be working on the final episodes when they get to some of the bigger action scenes and, of course, a few more surprises, and I really hope they do it justice, because after all these fillers, it has to pay off, or at least I can only hope so. What I will say is just an average, fun episode of Naruto Shippuden, so Naruto fans, check it out. You might see something you like. Before you guys leave today, I want to hear your thoughts about this week's episode of Naruto Shippuden. What did you think about the return of the Road to Ninja characters? Are you a fan of Tenten? What do you want to see from the rest of her filler arc? And what do you want to see from the rest of the Naruto Shippuden anime series? Please tell me in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching my review. Make sure to like it and share it with your friends and subscribe to the channel. We'd really appreciate that. As you guys probably know, a lot of videos have been on break this week. We have not released our podcast. I have not released my review of Gangsta. I had a planned review for the first 6 episodes of God Eater. The fact of the matter is, we are busy as crap. We were working on multiple projects. We do have day jobs. We're also going to Dragon Con 2015 this year. In fact, it's just tomorrow. It's going to be big. It's going to be amazing. It's one of the biggest sci-fi, comic book, anime, and pop culture conventions in the Southeast. So if you're going to be in Atlanta, Georgia, make sure to check that out. You might see us there. We can definitely hang out and have a really great Labor Day weekend. We're really excited for that. We're going to make some videos from that convention as well. We also have the start of a couple of brand new series coming up. We have a vlog series coming up. We have Pokemon Month, which is starting next week. We also have a brand new Star Wars series, which is also going to be starting next week, which is going to be massive. Just wait for that, guys. The Force is going to be strong with this one. But there it is. So there it is, guys. Have a great Labor Day weekend. Thank you again for watching. And as always, stay dandy, baby.